Hi there and welcome to the screencast in which I'm going to answer the review questions for the S2 Intro to Computer Science final. So the first question is, what is the purpose of a method? Well, a method is really a series of statements that are executed whenever the method is called. So at the most basic level, that's what a method actually is. Okay, what is the purpose of a constructor in object-oriented programming language? Well, a constructor initializes all of the variables of an object of a class. Let's see. Well, oh yeah, there. And that's its purpose. Really, the most important thing to remember is that it initializes variables, meaning it assigns them the first values when the program is running. Okay, an example of a call to the sum method would just be sum method 5. All right, notice that the parameter of some method is an int value. So when you call the method, you must supply an int value. And calling a method means simply give the name of the method and then supply a value for any parameter that the method may have. All right, what is the purpose of the update method in XNA? Well, in XNA, the state of the game, well, actually the state of the game and all of its components, such as mainly rectangles or arrays of rectangles, are updated based on user input. All right, give an example of code that will detect key presses in XNA. Well, you might have this. You might say keyboard state keyboard now equals keyboard dot get state, and then you might say, okay, if keyboard now dot is key down keys dot, let's say, space, then do something. And then looks like I'm missing a parenthesis there. And let me make this look like our code. I'll make it be curly or new. All right, so that's an example of code that will detect a key press in XNA. What is 7% 5 or 7 mod 5? Well, remember, you divide the first number by the second number, and the answer, instead of it being the quotient, it's the remainder. So when you divide 7 by 5, you get a remainder of 2. So that is what 7% 5 is. How many elements are stored in this array? Well, 5 elements would be stored in that array, and their indices would be 0 through 4. What is the line of code to assign the value 5 to the fifth element of the array X? Well, the fifth element is position 4, so you would say x4 equals 5. If the line of code sprite batch.end is found, what line of code must also be present? Well, that would be sprite batch.begin. Remember, for every begin you need an end. If you have an end, you must have a begin, and that's in the draw method of an XNA game. Okay, what does this code accomplish? All right, well, it basically um, draws a rectangle with a different image every time the draw method is executed. You have this variable animation count, which is incremented continuously and probably goes between 0 and 4. And then based on what that value is, it's going to draw a rectangle with the texture 2D value that is in the animation count position of an array. So this is accomplishing basic animation for some sprite using a rectangle and an array of images. Alright, so you might say it accomplishes animation by alternating texture 2D images that are drawn in a rectangle. Okay, let me make that red. Okay, what does this code accomplish? Well, it creates a rectangle, or no, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, it does. It creates a rectangle named X and positioned at a random location somewhere in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. That is in the first 50 pixels from the left. Okay. Let's see. And we'll say with an x coordinate somewhere between 0 and 50, and a y coordinate somewhere between 0 and 50. Okay, and the dimensions of the rectangle will be 300, the width will be 300, and the height will be 400. 300 for width by 400 for height. Okay, why is game state variable useful in XNA? Well, basically, it allows different events and activities to be executed during different phases of the game. So I think in our Flappy Bird and maybe in our button bashing games, we had statements like, if game state equals running, do this. Else, if game state equals finished, then perform all the statements that are in a second block of code. So really that's why the game state variable can be really useful. Okay, what is the name of the parameter in the method? Well, the name of the parameter would be x. Okay, whatever's in parentheses, you'll have a data type and the name of a parameter. So whatever would come after this int would be the name of the parameter in that method. Okay, what are the following data types in XNA? So a rectangle is basically a rectangular shape that can be drawn on the screen. So rectangular shape that can be drawn on the screen, and a texture 2D data type. Okay, those are images that can be drawn in rectangles. Alright. Alright, what does the following code do? Well, it's an assignment statement. It's typically found in the load content method of an XNA game. So what does it do? It assigns the image named image file to the variable, well, and it has to be a texture 2D variable named bird texture. All right. What's the difference between moving and animating a sprite? Moving a sprite means altering its location on the screen. Animating a sprite means drawing it with a specific motion pattern. Now, these can be completely independent of each other. You can move a sprite without animating it, and you can animate a sprite without moving it, or you can do both. It just depends on what your sprite needs to be doing at any given time. Okay, so why are variables declared under the class statement rather than within methods? Well, they're declared there so they can be referenced or accessed by any of the methods. How are the number of open curly braces and the number of closing curly braces in a C# or Java program related to each other? They must be equal. Okay, subtracting from the x and y properties of a rectangle will move the sprite that the rectangle represents in what direction? Well, subtracting is going to be up and to the left. Or I should say for x, I'll say to the left and up. So that's in the same order. Write the XNA call to check to see if rec A and rec B have collided. Well, it would be something like this. It would be if rec A dot intersects rec B. And that's all it would be. Then you would, do something based on whether or not that is true. What's wrong with the code? Well, it's really not going to be written going to execute as intended, and that's because there shouldn't be a semicolon here. Basically, when there's a semicolon, the meaning of this becomes if x is y is less than y, do nothing. Then x will always be assigned a value of 2. Also, there's x equals 2 is missing a semicolon. So I'm going to say move semicolon to after x equals 2. What two XNA methods are repeatedly executed and continuously executed? The draw method and the update method. What's wrong with the following code? Uh, there should be two equal symbols instead of one. Okay, whenever you're comparing things in the condition of an if statement, when you're comparing for equality, you need two equal symbols, not just one. Your program won't run unless you only have one. I mean, unless you have two, I should say. As opposed to an assignment statement where you're assigning something a value, like in number 20, then you only use one. Okay, what is the purpose of jump count variable in an XNA game? Alright, so what does jump count do? Uh, so it controls, um, well, what does it do? Okay, it controls the jumping sequence of a sprite. Oh, I see. There was more code here. All right. In this case, let's see. So if you look at the code carefully here, you have a rectangle, and jump count is continuously incremented. So it starts off when there's a key press, that jump count starts off at 0. Every time the update method fires or executes, jump count goes up by 1. So when jump count is still less than 5, the rabbit is going to go down by 5. When it's less than 10, the rabbit's going to go down another 5. Then when it increases past 10, it's going to move the rabbit up 10 pixels at a time. All right. What's the drawstring method used in an XNA game? It's used to draw text on the screen. What kind of file is assigned to a sound effect variable? Typically any audio file. So like a WAV file is what we most commonly used. All right. What's going on here in 26? It's every element of is on screen array is assigned a value of false. All right. What is the purpose of the variable sprite state? Okay, typically sprite state is used to control, let's see, how can I phrase this better? Determines the sprite's either animation or behavior based on what its state is. So you may want to use a certain set of images when the sprite is jumping, or and a different set of images to draw the sprite when the sprite is running. Or it could also affect the logic of your game. You know, if the sprite's rectangle can collide with other ones when it's in a certain phase of the game, or things like that. Okay, what symbols in Java indicate or C# indicate a comment? Okay, 2 forward slashes. What's the symbol for or? 2 vertical slashes. How is layering of sprites controlled in XNA? It's the order in which the sprite batch dot draw statements are executed, where later sprite batch dot draw statements will draw rectangles over ones that came earlier. Okay, what is an APK file? It's basically an Android executable file or installation file. List several things that are being done to a control button in the design view of App Inventor. Alright, so if we go into App Inventor and we look at, let's see, let me open one of my projects. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here are your controls or components. You can do many things with them. You can rename the component. You can assign like audio to the component. You can change the dimensions of the component. You can change the speed maybe of a specific component or control, and you can change the position of that control on the screen. So those are many things, several things that you can do. All right, what is happening here with this clock when clock timer fires? Okay, so this is really the tick event of a clock, and what is it doing each time it executes or fires? It is moving a sprite up towards the top of the screen. By subtracting from Y, you're moving a sprite upward. What kind of component is number of wins? It's a global variable. What does the code in 34 accomplish? Well, it creates a variable named number of wins and assigns it a value of 0. Okay, how frequently will the clock's timer event handler execute when the app is running? Well, it's the timer interval, which is in milliseconds, so it'll be every 200 milliseconds, which is the equivalent of 5 times per second. Okay, what is the purpose of the act method for an actor subclass? And I should have said in Greenfoot. Well, when the program is running, the act method is called for every actor in the world, and what's in the act method affects how an instance of the actor or subclass of the actor behaves and interacts with the world. Okay, sprites are blank of the blank class. Sprites are instances or objects, both of those terms are acceptable, of the actor class. Describe the overall purpose of a class file in Java and C#. A class file basically contains the blueprints or template for creating a special kind of object. You might also say the designs or template for creating a special kind of object. Or, well, actually, let me say an object of that class. So when you have a class file, that contains all the plans for how you're going to actually make instances of that kind of class in your game or in your program. Let's see, methods can be called from within any class in Java. Public methods can be, and private methods can only be called from within the class where they're found. Alright, write the XINA lines of code that will move every rectangle in an array of 10 rectangles named recautos to the right by 3 pixels. Use a for loop to do this. So I might say for int I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, and then I would say, let's see, what's the name of my rectangle? Recautos dot x plus equals 3, and that would do it. All right, let's see, what do I want to do? Oops, what did I just do? Let me go. There we go. Trying to make this red and in Courier. Okay, write the signature of a void method named doSomething, which has 2 parameters named x and y. X is a Boolean parameter and y is a double parameter. Okay, so it doesn't say whether it is public or private, so you wouldn't necessarily have to write it, but I'll just make it public. So public void do something. It has 2 parameters, x is Boolean and y is double u. Y is a double, not w. So I'm going to say Boolean x double y, and that would be its signature. Okay, so you have public or private. Void is the return type. If the method returned a value, you might have int or double or something right there. Then this is the name of the method, and then this is the list of the parameters, if there are any. So even if there aren't any parameters, you still need to use the parentheses. And for the parameters, for each parameter you give a data type and then a name. So, and the name is going to be what you reference inside the body of the method. Okay, I think that's it. As you can see, the final is going to be pretty straightforward, and hopefully everyone will do well on it. And I'm sorry I'm missing this last day of class, the review session for my Block A classes. My Block B classes, you will be seeing me one more time. So good luck, and we're almost done, and cheers.